proposal. I realize the proposal is about leasing, but we've been down this road before, most recently with Landscapes Unlimited, a company that manages golf courses around the country. They promise all kinds of advantages to awarding them the contract for managing OP golf course. Over a year later, they didn't fulfill their promises and our goals, one of which was to grow membership, and were released from their contract after OP having to pay them an exit payment, which was just mentioned. The course is now under the management and direction of John Malinowski, a golf pro professional, Andre Jordan, golf course superintendent, John Bailey, the OPGM, and the OP Board of Directors. The course is a pleasure to play. The course conditions are fairly good, in my opinion, as a 2 to 3 time a week golfer. Is recovering from problems due to past weather, watering, other factors that tend to not always be in the course caretaker's ability to control. Some residents of Ocean Pines might say that the outstanding outsourcing of the yacht club has been so successful, why not try the golf course? I will tell you why. We have no experts in-house that had restaurant expertise. We finally had the sense to admit this and that we needed help. The result being the success that the Matt Ortt Company has brought to the yacht club. Now, let's look at the OP golf course. We are lucky to have in-house 3 individuals with professional golf course experience. John Malinowski, golf pro professional. John has successfully managed the golf course since 2012. And his background includes, among other achievements, certification in all 6 areas of the PGA Certified Professional Program. Then there's Andre Jordan, certification, our golf course superintendent, who has been with Ocean Pines for many years and has proven himself knowledgeable in the care of the course. Next, we have John Bailey, who I don't know if everybody knows, who not only has all the requirements and expertise to handle the general manager's position well, but was also a former assistant PGA golf pro with the Evergreen Country Club in Haymarket, Virginia. Lastly, we have all the members of the OPGCC who not only are experienced golfers themselves, but are ready and willing to step up to help whenever needed to improve our course. One example is that of the recently initiated Sand Dogs program, started this past summer. Volunteers adopted a hole and then pledged to work during the summer to fill divots with sand, and if you're a golfer, that's important, on the tee boxes and fairways of their chosen hole. The goal to improve the condition of the hole and thereby the play of that hole was achieved. So here's the question. Why would we want to involve, yet again, by possibly paying an outside company or committing the association to financial commitments to an outside company when we have in-house experts at our fingertips? I am not interested in my assessment being reduced at all, ever. Don't give me $5 back and insult me with $5. Do something with it. I am interested in the board using the money to pay wisely. Finally, I am tired of the golf course being a target every time OP finances are discussed. It is an amenity that gives value to Ocean Pines, value to the community as a golf course community, and value to the properties that are here in Ocean Pines, whether you're on the golf course or not. I do not expect amenities to make great profits. I expect them to enhance my lifestyle, and they are the reason I moved here and pay my assessment. Thank you for your time.
Other public comments?
Nelson Fenwick, 12 Whaler Lane, and I'm the head sand dog, by the way, so you know where I'm coming from. I have said before, when we moved here, one of the key issues was the amenities. I also understand that quite recently this was voted, designated as one of the best places in Maryland to retire, best communities. The key word there is community, because that's what we are. Community consists of people with varied interests. And no matter what your particular bag is, you can find an interest group here in the Pines, whether it's golf, whether it's quilting or racket sports. Now, underlying all of this in this community are our infrastructure and our amenities. And we need to understand and treat them as amenities that enhance the whole experience. And as Ann brought up, the value of our property. When we look at the parks, we don't say, oh, gee, not enough people are using Somerset Park, so let's not cut the grass. When we look at one of the playgrounds, we said, well, I only saw 10 people use it last week, so maybe we should cut back on the maintenance. Penny wise, pound foolish. We understand we have to underwrite our amenities. The issue of leasing, I do not think that is in the best interest of the community. The motivation for anybody that would lease the golf course is not necessarily the same thing as our community. The leaser wants to make a profit. If he's not making a profit, what's the first thing to go? And that's going to be golf course maintenance. There's the golf community, which consists of the people that belong, the 1,800 people in the community that play, and quite frankly, the 800 to 1,000 homes that border the course. We do not want this amenity to deteriorate, because if it does, it will start a downward spiral. The golf course deteriorates, less people play, less money. The answer, cut maintenance again, until instead of having a golf course, what we have is a dog track. All right, anybody that plays golf knows what they are. And to wrap it up very quickly, last week I was down in Pawley Islands and played at a course called Caledonia. And it was gorgeous. Quite frankly, it's an example of what God could do if he had money. It's just beautiful. However, the course itself, playing the course, it doesn't have anything on Ocean Pines. We have one of the best designed golf courses anywhere. Maybe we should invest in that golf course so when people come down here to play golf, they don't think Eagles Landing or Rum Point. The first thing they think of is, let's go play that great course at Ocean Pines. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Don Rutter, 60 Nottingham Lane. I assume you all read the Bayside Gazette, is it? Last week, they had in there, I don't know, about 6 pages of information on things that are going on here in Ocean Pines. One of the things they mentioned is we have a $2.2 million deficit in maintenance. But we're still talking about spending $1.2 million on the clubhouse. Now, I know they come out of different piles of the budget, but that, again, is voodoo economics. It's still money we're spending. I guess the biggest question I have is I was really shocked to see that the police department was asking for, I think the general manager estimated it at $600,000 to redo the police department. Well, I was watching Andy Griffith last night, you know, the old show back in the 60s, early 60s, it was done. He had a better police department for a city of about $1,000, is the way the show, 1,000 people, the way the show designed it. He had a better police department than we do, police station than we do, not police men, okay? I don't understand how you can prioritize things and say we're going to spend $2-3 million on the clubhouse or anything else. We have the safest community, I think they say, in Maryland. Well, it's not due to the old men walking around with a golf club, and it's not due to anything else but that police department. And to say, well, we're thinking about doing something for the police department, but we're lined up and ready to spend the money on the clubhouse. That's wrong. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Good morning. Don McMullen, 53 Cannon Drive. I am president of the Ocean Pines Men's Golf Association. My comments today, just things I think we need to consider, especially when the new budget is planned for 2019. First and foremost, it has been years since the drainage of our golf course has been addressed. The prior board, years ago, approved for 18 holes, drainage. We have 48 years ago, holes 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 that all need new drainage from tee to green. And you can go out there and see the puddles. Last night, we only had 3 inches of rain. Add that to what we've had this year, we've had 60 inches of rain. So I think we might have a drainage issue on our golf course. So I think that needs to be addressed as far as our budget planning for 2019. If we're considering the leasing, we've already set dates for 2019 for the charity events. Ravens Roost 44 Scholarship Tournament, the Taylor Bank Junior Golf College Scholarship Tournament, the Merrimack Foundation Tournament that supports multiple charities, the Ernie Stiles Memorial Golf Tournament, supports diakonia and the Humane Society, and then finally the Ocean Pines Veterans Memorial Tournament, the Education Outreach Program for the 5th graders. So if we have a third party, are they going to assure us those dates? So we have planning committees already planning these charity tournaments, which I addressed last month. The spring and fall package play. What will the groups that book packages think about us leasing the course for a third time after the failures of Casper Golf and Landscapes? New roof and the installation of an elevator, renovation of the 2nd floor for the community. Let me repeat that, for the community. It's not for the golfers, this is for the community. When will it be completed? Community's waited 2 years now, nothing's happened up there. Will the board be cutting the golf budget for 2019 by $40,000 like you did for the 2018 budget? Do you think that might have an effect on the course maintenance? How do we protect our investment of over $300,000 that we spent January 2017 on brand new carts? We have a cart barn. If you ever looked at those walls, they're getting ready to fall in. When do we plan to go ahead and repair or replace those? So when you entertain the leasing of the course, will you set the prices for the golfing like you have in the past? Will the company lease our equipment, do the marketing, and handle the personnel? I don't think you told Matt Ortt organization how much money to charge for drinks, food, and entertainment. We had a good golf year despite the poor bad weather and the course conditions. I don't think a group leasing our course is moving us forward. Please try and involve the golfing community in future discussions as far as our golf course and its facilities. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. I would urge the Board of Directors not to support Director Slobodin's motion. Over the years, I've lived here full-time 30 years, there's been a lot of talk and issues related to losses in golf. But quite frankly, we've gotten beyond that. Last year's audited financial report, I believe, indicated a $5,000 operational profit. Let's not beat something when it's doing much better than there was a year, 10 years ago or so, golf lost, I believe, $500,000 1 year, 400,000, whatever it was. Golf is doing well. Malinowski and his people seem to be doing a good job. I mean, I don't know why we want to rock this boat at this time, but I would urge you not to do that. On another subject, with the trash and the recycling. The purpose of recycling, I think, people in this community, and in all communities that do it, they want to do something that's good for the environment. Well, after listening today to the trash collection people say that we're taking papers and collecting them, transporting them someplace, putting them on boats, I would assume, and shipping it to China, I'm not sure how that is even how that benefits the environment of the earth overall. So are we just kidding ourselves by what we're doing? Maybe it's beneficial, maybe not. Let's ask our Environmental and Natural Assets Committee to look into whether the actual process is benefiting our environment, or are we just doing something that makes us feel good? One of the, aside from the normal environmental issues, it's the size of the dumps at the county. The more it goes in, the more they have to build, the more expensive it is. But the vast majority of what goes into the county's dumps, I don't know if it's a vast majority, but a very substantial part of it is not waste from homes. It's construction debris. So I think we ought to look into it before we make any decision on it. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Tom Byerly, live at 6 Oceans End, work at the golf course. Golf courses don't make money, period. Unless you're Lighthouse Sound and you've got 6 golf courses and you put them all together and you can do that kind of stuff. They're not there to they're not making money. Your materials, your supplies, everything, fertilizers, all that kind of stuff eats their money. Plus, at this golf course here, we can't do anything unless you call Public Works. That's a nightmare in itself. Trying to get the people to come in, do the work. You have to have good quality people, you have to have good quality plans, and you have to know what you're doing with the golf course. We don't have that here. They don't pay the money to the people they need. They have a very skeleton force. Most of the people that work here are older, retired people, and they like golf, and they go in and they put their time in. Certainly not for the money, because it's not there. I've worked at a lot of different golf courses, and I've seen a lot of way up there run, and this one is different than any golf course I've ever worked at. It just doesn't seem that you have the mentality to changing lease people, changing this. You have some great people there that do a lot of hard work, but you don't pay them. You're only going to get what you pay for. And you need to have the people there pay some money to the place, put the money into the golf course. It's the best designed golf course down here. Rum Point is the best taken care of golf course down here. Big difference. You go there, people are cutting grass 5 o'clock in the evening because it rained in the morning. Here, 5 o'clock in the evening, you won't find anybody. They take care of things they need to take care of when they need to be taken care of. We don't do that here. We let things ride. If you're thinking about getting a management company, the money you're going to spend on those, you could do it in-house by paying people and giving them the money that they need to do the job. We got plenty of equipment. We just don't have anybody, excuse me, to run it. People that care, people that want to put the time and effort in. The community and the people that work on the golf course cleaning bathrooms, filling sand divots, all the other things, they care about the course, all right? That's where your people come in that know what they're doing. Golf course is not going to make any money. It's here to bring people in. Hopefully your other amenities will make money off of them. The yacht club, people going to have a beer, those kind of things. Really look at your operation and what you have and what you can spend to get people in here that know what they're doing, that want to work. And think about the lease. You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to incorporate new thoughts, new plans, and you find people that work in the area like Andre. They know the ground. They know the area. I've worked at golf courses before when a greenskeeper came in, excuse me, from North Carolina. Put the wrong fertilizer down and burn up all the approaches. You got to know your area. You got to know dirt. You got to be an agronomist and know what's going on. And I'm not sure we have all the right mix here. So before you go, look for something else to get rid of a problem. Deal with your problem. Public Works can come there and do a lot of things. They can do a lot of things in this community. But when you can't go to someone else, you have to call Public Works, wait for them to come in, assess the situation, figure out what they want to do. Plus, they're charging you. You got the Public Works charging the golf course budget to budget. I mean, it's a Ferris wheel. They take money from here, they put it there. You're at the mercy of Public Works to get anything fixed. You need a light switch. You can't do it. I've volunteered my time to do different things. You can't do that. We got to call Public Works. When's that going to happen? Who knows? So you look at your operation you got going now before you bring somebody else to come in and take the responsibility away from you guys. It's your job to get people squared away. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Hi, Carol Fritz, 1290 Ocean Parkway. I don't play golf. I'm glad we have a golf course. I'm glad it's an amenity we intend to keep, and I hope we keep it in-house. So Slobodan, I usually agree with you. Not on this one, buddy. The other thing is, I heard there's mold in the country club. Is that going to affect the RFP? And I heard it's pretty bad. They actually had somebody there checking it. Is this correct? No answer. Very interesting. And it is going to affect the RFP because you're going to have to mold remove, and you're going to have the bottom floor where the mold is repaired. I'd like to find out what the bottom dollar that's going to be.
Other public comments?
Michael Lello, 306 Piedmont Court. You know, I heard some really good things today. What I would like to see is more strategic planning. You have a lot of expertise in this community, and I'd like to see more strategic planning, more community involvement. And you know, the golf course is a staple. The yacht club's a staple. You got to make these things work. We're a high-rated community, and I think nobody would disagree with that. And I'm all in support of trying to develop a successful organization to continue the golf club. One other issue that I'd like to bring up is the way we go about things. If you look at the crabbing pier, we're looking at 1/3 of the problem. The other 2/3 of the problem are going to cost us money that aren't being focused on. And I want to go on record because the floating section is one cost. This has been ignored for 18 years, not just the floating section, but the elevated boardwalk as well, and the rooted mat pathway. So my questions that I don't expect any answers today with, I want to leave with you. Have you considered the extra costs for the elevated walkway? Have you considered the extra costs for the pathway rooted? Have you considered the extra costs for liability and safety? Have you considered the extra costs for parking accommodations? You're only dealing with one segment of the problem. The problem is extended. Strategic planning is key. And most importantly is maintenance. Is there a strategic plan for maintenance? This is what every issue that I've heard today sitting back in here really comes down to strategic planning and maintenance. If you don't maintain anything, why have it? And, you know, I sincerely mean this. I think you really have to focus in on these. The third thing is 8,500 people. Yes, I agree. What is the best decision for 8,500 people? Because I know as a resident of South Whitetail Sanctuary, I came in here and I shared with you 18 years of problems. And I hope people were listening. Doing a great job, thank you.
Other public comments?
I'll just make one comment about the recycling materials. Pardon? My name and address? I'd prefer not to give that to you.
Well, I'm sorry, that's part of what we do with public comment. You come up and you state your name and where you live in Ocean Pines.
Nobody else gave the name and address?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
Forget it then. I have good information for you, but you don't want it. I won't give my name and address.
Other public
I'll tell you
comments?
one reason why. I got in an argument with somebody like you, and when I got home, there was 2 police officers on my porch. I said, well, what the hell are you doing here?
Sir, if you're not going to make a public comment, please take your seat.
You don't want me to finish the story about the 2 police officers?
No, I don't, sir.
As it
With
turned
all
out-
due respect,
as it
I asked
turned
you to
out,
do
they weren't
one thing
Ocean
that
Pines
follows the
police officers.
protocol.
They came in from another state.
Sir, I'm not interested at this point. But thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Will you do me a favor? Don't ever the hell let me come back again.
Noted and understood, sir. Thank
If
you.
one of you want to buy my house, I'll be gone by tomorrow
Sir,
morning.
please, you're out of order now. I'd like to ask you politely to sit down. We'll move with other public comments. Any other public comments?
Well, why don't you get up when you're talking to me instead of sitting down?
My preference. Other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close the floor for public comments. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Capital purchases. There were no capital purchases requested at this time, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is CPI violations. In the board packet, with the absence of JB, within the board packet, there is information regarding the two properties and CPI violations. One is 3 Barnacle Court. I'll accept a motion to find them in continuing violation. Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of finding 3 Barnacle Court in continuing violation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Was that, Ted, was that a vote for yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. None opposed. Was the timing there. All right, next item on CPI violations, 120 Nottingham Lane. I'll entertain a motion to find them in continuing violation. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of finding 120 Nottingham Lane in continuing violation, please say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We have none from the previous meetings. Therefore, we'll move to the next item in the agenda, new business. First reading of Resolution B05. Esther.
Okay, we'll keep this short and sweet. Nothing's changed. This is the same housekeeping that they did on the C resolutions. Basically, because the bylaws and charters have changes and certain specific items not there anymore, everything's being referenced in general to charter generically instead of specifically. This way, we don't have to continue to make those changes. And that was it, just housekeeping.
All right, any other questions? So the way this works is resolutions come up for a first reading, and then they come up for a second reading, subsequent months, and then a second reading if there's no changes are adopted at that meeting. All right, next item, first reading for Resolution B06.
Same statement as the last.
Same statement. Any questions, concerns?
And the same thing for MO5.
All right, again, following proper protocol, we want to make sure that everybody's aware that there were first readings for Resolution B05, B06, and M05. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, motion lease the golf property with third party. Slow on.
No, I'm done.
Thanks, Doug. Motion to instruct the general manager to lease Ocean Pine Association golf property to a third-party operator with intent to complete the following by April 30th, 2019. Obtain golf advisory service from a consulting firm with expertise in the golf industry on a national level by November 30th, 2018. With the firm's assistance, issue requests for proposals to lease the golf property. Report the results of the RFP process to the board by February 8, 2019. Purpose and effect. Leasing the golf property to an experienced third-party operator will provide stable, long-term financial benefits that are fair to all Ocean Pines homeowners. Intent is to enable the golf property to operate as a standalone business entity and to eliminate changing political and/or in-house management views and pressures. Background. OPA operated its golf property using in-house resources and fee-based professional management services in the past. Both approaches produced mixed and inconsistent results, thereby placing a burden on the entire association's membership. Continuing industry challenges and growing competition from the surrounding courses makes it necessary for the OPA board to seek financially sustainable long-term solution.
Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion doesn't make it to the floor. Next item on the agenda.
Hold on quick. Doug,
I'm sorry.
may I interject? Am I allowed to interject? I don't know the rules that well. My question is, why can't we at least gather information, not saying to pass this motion, I'm saying gather information. I'm all about information. I'm all about laying out our options. We may turn around and say these are not true options. It doesn't have to be so black and white here. I'm just putting that out there as far as gathering information on this subject. I know we've done it before, I hear you. And things change. We also had the golf course that wasn't watered properly this year by our in-house team that damaged the greens, and I'm not even a golfer, and I know that. My suggestion is we take some time to gather some information and don't be so opposed to seeing options.
Yeah,
That's all.
let me respond, because I think it's a good question. At the end of the day, I think what I've observed is a willingness of people that are associated with the golf environment, not associated with the golf environment, board members, other committee members, all providing information, okay? So I think that dialogue will continue, all right? I think we've heard a lot of different things. I think it's very important that we just completely understand exactly what it is that we want to do moving forward, but I don't want to make a personal statement since we didn't have discussion on the motion. I think it would be unfair, but your point is taken, and I think everybody would certainly agree that continued discussions are
Isn't
including
seconding the
continuing
motion
way.
going to allow that to discuss?
No, it would not. No, because it would dictate a specific course of action. Okay, that's the difference. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. The next item on the agenda. Moving on. The next item on the agenda: bulkhead replacement program. Slow it down.
Motion to instruct the general manager to issue requests for proposals only for the installation-related services for bulkhead replacement work no later than November 30th, 2018. Purpose and effect. This will enable OPA to have separate contracts for the installation services only and to contract directly with the preferred suppliers for required material. This approach will provide the association's membership with substantial financial savings over the life of the bulkhead replacement program. Background. The bulkhead replacement work is currently structured as a turnkey project, meaning OPA contractor is also responsible for the purchase of all required material. This type of setup usually creates a cash flow problem for some contractors, which ultimately result in an increased project cost that gets built into the price. This additional cost could be avoided.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I have some comments I'd like to make. First of all, I'm not in support of this motion for several reasons. Number one, we've already approved a contract for the next phase, and that includes materials and the installation process. Secondly, I question whether contractors are really going to be willing to bid on a contract where they do not supply the materials, primarily because that's where a significant part of their profit comes from. I don't see any guarantee of savings here. I also see a management nightmare. If someone in OPA, in our Public Works Department, is responsible for managing all of this material and make sure it gets to the contractor when they need it at the bulkhead site, I see that as a management nightmare. We just went through a whole issue with Swim and Racket about storing bulkhead materials on Ocean Pines property, and all of a sudden now, if we do something like this, we're going to be storing materials on Ocean Pines property somewhere. That's an issue for me.
Slow it down.
Let me try to frame the suggestion, perhaps to avoid comments that actually might not be relevant to what the motion is calling for. And I can understand what Steve said, but what the motion is asking to be done has nothing to do with whether 100,000 linear feet of material is going to be stored somewhere or not. What the motion is suggesting is that we instruct the general manager to look into creating a purchasing agreement, often referred to as indefinite quantity contract, but these are basically a multi-year agreements that are negotiated with the suppliers that provide a purchasing power for Ocean Pines based on a volume. For example, instead of letting a contractor buy 1,000 feet of material, linear bulkhead wall, we as end user, as a customer, can have IQC or a purchasing agreement with a supplier that is based on what we believe is going to be a need to replace over the next, say, 5 years. So we might be looking at 20,000 feet. We might be looking at 50,000 feet. And obviously, if you set up that kind of agreement with a supplier, you're going to get a much better price for 30,000 feet of products as opposed to 1,000 feet of product. So all I'm asking is that we look at the upside of this motion and the benefit that Ocean Pines will have by setting up a multi-year purchasing agreement directly with the suppliers. We can negotiate terms and conditions of the contract, like warranty, like delivery sites, like payment schedule, discounts based on volume. This is a standard, basically, purchasing setup that's done in situations and in programs like this that are multi-year and multi-million-dollar expenditures. The other benefit of suggesting that the board approves this and for the general manager to explore is that we have now been hit with the additional cost as a result of looking for different staging locations. Therefore, it is really imperative and essential for the board and the association to look at any opportunities where the costs can be reduced. And what this motion is calling for is precisely to explore another way to do this program, another way to create agreements, purchasing agreements with the suppliers that is separate from agreements with installers. And that, I believe, has definitely a lot of benefit. And I'm asking the board to really look at this from a perspective of getting the motion approved and then getting the information collected so we know actually what the savings are going to be if we implement this approach. This has been done in the industry, in different industries, and I believe that we need to take the time and explore this and then let the data tell us whether we are on the right track or not.
Colette?
I think the competitive bidding process that we use achieves this already. So I'm in disagreement with allocating staff time and resources to this kind of an initiative when we have other priorities that are pressing, such as draining, roads maintenance, and deferred maintenance. I see it as a highly inefficient use of important resources that we have within OPA. I think it's a great opportunity to continue to outsource this part of that contract.
All right, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I don't know why we're so afraid to get information, but we just constantly seem to be afraid to get information. I like having all the facts in front of me. I absolutely want to see all the facts, whether they're historical or not. This does nothing but bring us more information, and what troubles me as a board member is that we are constantly afraid to get information. We're not making any decisions here. We're just merely putting everything on the table. Then we can make an educated decision, whether it's with this or anything else in this community. I will tell you, this is a frustration I have, is that we are just constantly afraid to do this. So I believe this motion is a go-in just purely for information, and then we can make our decisions. That's it.
Frank?
I agree with those comments. I mean, this is what boards are supposed to do. You heard earlier in the treasurer's report that we're looking at a lot of things that generally are going to drive costs up. We have an obligation to all 8,452 people to look at every line item in the budget, every amenity that we have, every department that we have, to see if we can do things cheaper, faster, better, or some combination of the three. It is just what boards do. So getting this type of information and looking at different approaches that are different than what we've done for the past 50 years since we've migrated from a campground are part of what intelligent boards do. And that's all that's being asked. Nothing more, nothing less, on everything that we're talking about.
I just got a text. Ted, you want to turn Ted's microphone on?
Yeah, I've got a couple comments on this. One, I don't have any problem with getting it priced a couple of different ways. There's two things. One, we're not ready to bid the next phase out yet, so setting dates to have it go out. I would prefer if Slobodan would take a friendly amendment to state that when we bid the next phase out, we will bid it both ways. One, us looking to supply it because there's a bunch of logistics there, and second, bidding it the way that we bid these previous ones. That gives us what Frank just said, all of the data, looking at it both ways. I just don't want to set a date on it because we don't even have the permits for the next phase yet. That's my comment.
Well, seems I'm the only one that hasn't commented. I wrote my notes down. So I agree in concept. I think the intent of the motion is to at least gather some additional information. We're not taking any definitive action with regard to the physical replacement of the bulkheads. We're gathering more information. A couple of things that came to mind as I was trying to think through this was, you know, if we have this in front of it, do the bidders that would look at this environment, would they artificially increase their labor costs to cover the markups that they usually have when they provide the materials? All right. So, are we really getting a valid bid back from them, or are they just covering the costs in the other way? What happens if we had a change in the vendor? Can we still sustain this going forward? A third item was, would a vendor, let's say we pick a particular material, and so on and so forth, and the vendor comes in, they either say, no, I've worked with that material before, I don't want to work with it, I'm not going to warrant it, I'm not going to warranty any of my work, I'm not going to come back with repair work based on the fact that you're using this kind of material. So it throws a question into those kinds of things, and then obviously, those kinds of things I think need to be asked. But at the end of the day, I'm comfortable with going out and getting information, all right? I don't know that, quite frankly, it's more of an academic perspective in the sense that I'm actually interested in seeing if there's any vendors that would respond to say, yeah, I will do the work if you provide the materials. I'm sort of interested in getting an answer to that. So I would be in general support of it. I would be remiss, and you guys know how I feel about the difference between motions and directives. So, I mean, at this point, it's the motion's on the floor. I certainly can support it in the framework that it's in, but one of the things that we want to do is we don't have to wait, again, we don't have to wait for a board meeting, to issue a directive. And you guys have been very open and honest about that. It's like if we have something like that and we need to gather information, we don't have to put a motion on the floor. We can talk amongst ourselves. We can issue a directive to the GM and get the information, quite frankly, in a much more rapid fashion. But generally, for the information gathering part of this, I'll support it. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But I would also echo what Ted said. I think that with all that we have going on, the dates are somewhat restrictive, cumbersome. I don't think that we need to have that right away. I think we need to put it as a parking lot item that we should follow up on. So I'm uncomfortable with the dates. So I'll add that unless there's a friendly amendment to address the date part of it, I won't support it. But if there is a friendly amendment to address the date side of it for this restriction, I will. Colette.
If we're going to use it as an information gathering opportunity, gathering information about who would bid the service-only part of the contract and what that would cost us is only half the information we would need. The other half is what is the materials cost that we would be facing if we're going to be, believing that by going ahead and getting our own bids on the materials that we'd be able to do better. So the way it's written, it isn't going to give us enough information to really make a long-term decision about this going forward.
Slow down.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks to everybody for the comments. I will be happy to accept Ted's friendly amendment to modify the motion and remove some of the time deadlines. I believe Ted, as a former executive in the construction industry, understands the value of exploring this kind of setup with two different purchasing or service contracts. And I'm perfectly okay with going that route. Again, just to underscore that doing this basically allows us to reach out to the contractors that are actually going to do the installation only and find out what kind of a bids we would get from them, and we can easily call one or two and just get their feedback. And then test this with the actual suppliers. When we're talking about a material, really the biggest cost here is the bulkhead wall. And we have, our bulkhead program has a specs on what that material should be. It's a vinyl, and it's got to meet certain standards. So there's going to be very little change in the actual bulkhead wall that's going to be installed today or 3 years from today, because everything has to look the same colors, same specs, and I think that's pretty much defined in the program. But again, I'm happy to accept Ted's friendly motion and for us to proceed to gather the data on what we are trying to obtain, actually.
Hey, Ted, so would you make a friendly amendment and put a specific date or some kind of verbiage for that?
Yeah, I'll try to do this over the phone. I would...
no, turn it on.
I would just simply change the motion to read, to instruct the general manager to issue request for proposal, RFP, for both installation-related services for bulkhead replacement only and full service contract with the next bid let, or words to that, next RFP to go out when it's from Ocean Pines. I can clean that up a little bit better.
Well, since we have to read it back for the record, let's do that.
Okay,
Let me
say it one more time. To instruct the general manager to issue a request for proposal, RFP, for both installation-related services for bulkhead replacement only and for both installation and material replacement of bulkhead at the next opportunity, period.
All right, there's a friendly amendment on the floor. I'll accept or I'll entertain a motion to accept the friendly amendment. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion on the friendly amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the friendly amendment? Did you get all that?
I think so.
All right. We have to read it. Ted, can you say it one more time? Because my shorthand was not one of my strong suits. Yeah, hold on. Sorry, Ted, stand by. Colette, can you read it, please?
This is what I got. To direct the GM to issue a request for proposals, RFP, for both installation-related services for bulkhead replacement only, and also installation and materials full service contract with the next request for proposal.
All right, all those in favor of accepting the friendly amendment as proposed, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, now we'll move back to the original the original motion. Any further discussion on the original motion now that we've passed the friendly amendment?
How does, I have one quick question. How does this affect the November 30, 2018 date that's in here now? Has that been removed?
Yeah,
okay.
it's actually removed. It doesn't apply anymore. And there's really been, the way I understand it, and I want my colleagues to consensus here, is that there really isn't any date other than the next RFP. So it's vague enough yet specific enough at the same time to, is everybody comfortable with that? All right, understood. So all those, I'll close the discussion. All those in favor of the original motion as amended by the friendly amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, appointments. I'll ask the indulgence of the board, unless there's any specific questions, that we take a single vote on all of the appointments at once. Any concerns? Questions? All right, appointments. Sally Stout, first term communications. John Brooks Enzer Jr., first term aquatics. Josette Wheatley, first term communications. Ann O'Connell, first term environment and natural assets. I'll entertain a motion to accept the appointments.
So moved.
Is there a second? Assuming no discussion on any of them, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the appointments as noted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. At that point, no more items on the agenda. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.